Hello, and welcome back to the channel. We are going to be once again talking about the issue in Ghana. Again, we feel that this is a very important issue that needs to be talked about. Okay. Before I get started, again, I am going to be sharing this, and I'm going to ask that you all share as well. Share this live. Very, very important live. I'm going to be bringing you some updates on this story. It seems as though both sides are responding on this. Okay. Those who are affiliated with the land that was taken, as well as some of those that are in Ghana have responded as well. And I'm going to be pointing you to those videos. Just a moment here. I'm going to share this live, and then I'm going to get right into this. I specifically want to talk about one particular Ghanaian response to those in the diaspora who have responded. Okay, I'm going to get into that in just a moment. Share this live. I would very much appreciate it. So, there we go. So I'm going to get right into this. Shalom to everyone who is joining us in this live. So something very, very significant happened in Ghana. Okay. Something very significant. And I believe that it definitely should be discussed. It should definitely be discussed. And there is this attitude, in my opinion, that we have no right to discuss it. I'm going to show you all that video in a moment. But if you remember, myself as well as others have talked about the issue in Ghana. I first saw this on the Go Black to Africa channel. This is a brother who travels quite a bit in Africa, and he knows a lot about the inner workings of different situations in Africa, from the people on the ground and from others who have shared testimonies with him. So I feel that he definitely has a right to speak on this. And I feel that you can speak on this if you are looking at the situation. We're not giving specifics as to what happened, but we're saying, hey, this happened. And so to say that no one has a right to talk about what has happened, right? That is not a fair way to do things. Okay, especially when there is an active campaign to get those in the diaspora to move to Ghana. A very, very active campaign. And so that's why I'm sharing the one message that is on the screen here. This was under the video of someone that lives in Ghana, or a Ghanaian who has responded to this. And basically he's like saying those in the diaspora shouldn't be talking about this. Okay, putting up videos about this without knowing the history of this land. And my thing is this: we're not talking about the history of this land, sir. Or I'm going to say young man, because it's a young man. Okay, I'm old enough to be his mother. We're not talking about the history of this land. We're talking about the fact that some houses have been torn down, right? That's what the issue was. He was even referencing the young lady who took the video. She very clearly sounds Ghanaian. She was there filming this, and he was saying that she shouldn't have put the video out there either, right? My thing is this: of course, the land does have some history. Of course, you all have laws and rules and things of that nature. But to say that someone shouldn't report on this story because they don't know the history of the land, this is just a report. Some properties being torn down. Folk can talk about the fact that the property is being torn down. Especially when there's other information. You have a chief coming forward afterward saying that this is not the way to do things. I didn't hear the young man respond to the chief's response. I only heard him respond to the woman's response. But anyway, here is a comment on the screen of someone. I don't know if he's young or old, but his response to me is worth looking into. Is worth looking into, especially when I listen to some of the details. I'm going to get into some of the details, and I'm going to let you look at the video yourself, right? But anyway, this person, I can't pronounce the name, so I'm not going to try, but you see it on the screen there. Okay. It says, thanks for the insight and history on this land issue. Much appreciated. But let's be honest. There are still a lot of land issues that have caused people tremendous financial loss. It's something that is commonly known here in Ghana. Okay, so this is a person that's there in Ghana, because he says commonly known here in Ghana. So he's a person with feet on the ground, right? And then he goes on to say, and all because of greed and corruption. And he says, so please, let's be honest and truthful about that part as well, because this issue is a serious concern for all of us here in Ghana and the diaspora. Thank you again. So he was polite. He was responding under the video where the guy is saying that those of us here in the diaspora have no right to speak on this issue. Okay, this person responded on that video, and so I'm going to show you both videos. One of the people affiliated with the land that was taken responded as well. So you have a Ghanaian responded, you have one of the people involved in this who have responded as well. And so for us, we have a right to look at this issue and say, okay, so who's telling the truth? Right? Who's telling the truth? Now, some would believe, because in looking at some of the comments under the young man's video, it seems as though some say, well, I'm glad you all addressed this, so now we know what's going on. It seems as though because he has responded, people are automatically assuming that they're on the right side of this, that things were done fair and right. But when I listened to the response of one of those who are actually affiliated with the land that was taken, they sound very, very trustworthy and official as well, being the property owners or those who are affiliated with the group that owns the property. So you have to listen at both sides, because there was something very significant that was addressed about this whole situation. And this was something that was said by Go Black to Africa, when he made the statement that people should not be buying land in Ghana right now, those in the diaspora. He had a right to say that based on things that he knows of, right? I'm sorry, I'm clearing my throat, family. I hope that no one is bothered by that. I have some hot chocolate here to kind of sip on as we do this, so please bear with me. I don't think I'm under the weather. I don't claim that. It's just, one of those things. So anyway, when Go Black to Africa suggested that people not buy, those in the diaspora, not to buy land in Ghana at this moment, I think there was some offense taken to that. Basically, I feel like that brother is looking out for people. He's saying, look, this isn't the time right now. This isn't the time right now. Hold off on doing that, because here are some issues that he knows of. And we too know of some issues that have happened. Okay. So what are we supposed to do? I'm asking the young man who responded and anyone else who responds negatively at the fact that we are responding to this. Okay. What are we supposed to do when we hear stories of two women from Detroit, in which I spent a great deal of my life in Detroit? What are we supposed to do when we hear that a mother and a daughter lost their lives in a land dispute in Ghana? What are we supposed to do with that bit of information? What are we supposed to do when we hear that another brother lost his life in Ghana over a land dispute? What are we supposed to do when we hear that another couple lost their life in Ghana over a land dispute? What are we supposed to do with that bit of information? So there was a big concern by the young man that talking about this issue tarnishes the image of Ghana. That is not the goal, young man. That is not the goal. The goal is not to tarnish anything. The goal is to put people in a place where they can make informed decisions. Where they can say, okay, I need to make sure that I'm connected with the right organization before buying land. Or maybe I should take the advice of someone who has been there, who has ties in Ghana. Maybe I should take his advice and hold off on buying land in Ghana. Are we not allowed to discuss these things? Again, the specifics of this thing. Now, another point that was made about all of this is the corruption. Even the comment on the screen is talking about corruption. So one brother actually talked about the fact that with this corruption, there are people who are paid off, bought and paid for, to change numbers, to change documents, to change things because someone paid them off. So now this becomes an issue of who do we trust? Do we trust the people that bought the land and have now had their property torn down? Or do we trust the people who say, hey, we're Ghana, we have laws, we have rules, and here's some information about the land and how we do things? I mean, who do you trust? Especially when you're hearing reports that some people on the ground will allow themselves to be bribed into changing things. Who are we supposed to trust? Now, there was one issue that was brought up by the young man who put out his video. Okay. He was saying that there was, a breach of contract, right? Now, the one of the elders who was speaking on behalf of the land project, he brought out some issues as well. He said that they had a 50-year lease, but they are only 24 years into it. So that bit of information alone, the fact that they have a 50-year lease, but they're only 24 years into it and stuff is being torn down, that bit of information alone makes me wonder, why was anything torn down when they were not even finished with their lease? Then there was the discussion of one party saying that this is the amount that was agreed upon for them to pay for the lease, but they've only been paying this amount. Now, are we to believe party A or party B? Because both are trying to say that this is what's going on and that's what's going on. Someone in the comment section made a very, very good point. They said, okay, so if they were not holding up their end of the bargain, why did it take you 24 years to act upon that? Why 24 years? So again, don't we have a right to ask these questions? Do we have a right to ask these questions? Or are we supposed to just be silent as not to tarnish the image? Listen, that is not what I believe people are trying to do here. I don't even like the implication that we are trying to tarnish the image of Africa, period, when we talk about things that happen in Africa. The implication is that we are harming the image of Africa, but not the confirmed scams. Do you all remember? Come on now. And I'm not trying to listen. I'm not trying to tarnish the image, but I remember myself getting a lot of emails from Nigerian scammers saying this, that, and the third. Do you all remember that? Did any of you get that? And I've seen reports of people who have been scammed out of hundreds of thousands of dollars in the Nigerian scams. And so, don't you think that's the stuff that's tarnishing the image, not us talking about the fact that these things are happening? Someone says they're still happening. No one's trying to tarnish the image of Africa. There are those in the chat right now. V. Hannah says she still gets the scam emails. Curtis says he still gets them. A lot of people said that they got them at one time. Shauna got them. DeLorean got them. Quentin got them. DSB got them. A lot of people have said, and DSB said that they still get the emails and the calls. And Quentin says they still get them as well. So here's the thing, y'all. For this young man to imply that we have no right to talk about this, because we are not discussing details as far as who's right and who's wrong. What we are discussing is the fact that people need to be careful before making those kind of decisions. That's a big decision, especially when you have this comment on the screen where the brother said, I'm going to read it again. He says, thanks for the insight in the history of the land issue. Much appreciated. But let's be honest. He says there are still a lot of land issues that have caused people tremendous financial loss. It's something that is commonly known here in Ghana. This is what the brother's saying. He says, and all because of greed and corruption. So we are not allowed to talk about the corruption because you're concerned about tarnishing of an image? What about the people who have had that tremendous financial loss? What about them? Carmen Nicholson, I did listen to that. That's what I'm talking about. I listened to his side of the story. I listened to his, and I also listened to one of the people who is affiliated with the land that was taken. I did listen to his, and he was talking about the history of the land and how there was a breach of contract and all of this kind of stuff. But I understood where our brother from Go Black to Africa was coming when he said that people have been known to change documents and things of that nature. So this is a matter of who is telling the truth and who is not. Okay. So anyway, the comment goes on to say, please, let's be honest and truthful about that part as well. You know, about there being greed and corruption. That he says, because this is a serious concern for all of us here in Ghana and the diaspora. He said it's a serious concern. Okay, so someone says, wake up my people, what about the redlining here in America? Okay, so redlining here in America is a totally different topic, with all due respect. We're talking about some people who bought land, or should I say leased land in Africa and had their property torn down. That's a whole other topic. We know, and we talk about the demons here in America all of the time, but we are not going to be diverted to talking about what's going on here in America in exchange for what happened to these people in Ghana. Two different subjects, two different topics, especially when we talk about the corruption here in America all of the time. There's this idea that we are not allowed to talk about the corruption in Africa. We got to talk about that too. We have to talk about that too. I mean, I'm always talking about the corruption here in America. For those who follow this channel, you know that very clear. Crystal says, have you heard or seen European talking about their problems on social media, disappointed about black people? It happens, but also in Europe, also stop talking. We look stupid. Okay, so Chrisia, let me tell you something. You have to get some understanding on what's going on here. When you have an active campaign to get those in the diaspora, not just here in America, but in the diaspora period, to come and invest in Africa and buy land in Africa and come there and spend your money, it is ignorant for us to not discuss what you could possibly be facing. It is not stupid to talk about this. I feel like people have a right to look at both sides. They have a right to look at this and understand what is happening. I think it's stupid not to talk about it. It's ignorant not to talk about it. Ignorant as in we should not ignore what we see happening. Because we have seen and heard all kinds of things that are happening on the continent. And because we talk about these things don't mean that we don't love our people. Victoria said that this topic is really making people mad. I've been going through this for years. Whenever we talk about anything dealing with Africa, people get so upset, especially if it's something negative. Now, when we're talking about the positive things, nobody gets upset. But there's this thing where it seems as if you talk about anything concerning Africa, that you're causing division. Like this person in the chat says, spirit divided, same, one breath, wind, moving, whatever. This is not causing division. This is causing the person to make decisions. King Tubby makes a good point. He says, you, Ghana, call people to come to your country and then have no protection for them. Angel says she wants to hear all sides. And so exactly, that's what we're saying here. I'm going to put up on the screen a couple of things for you guys so you can look at a couple of videos. And again, you have to keep in mind some things that were pointed out. Just because someone from Ghana says that this, that, and the third doesn't mean that their side is the true side. And just because the landowners are saying something doesn't mean that their side is the true side. But both sides can be talked about. What we showed you and what others showed was the fact that properties were being torn down. And with all due respect, you have a right to know that hey, if something goes wrong, if every dot is every I is in dot and every T is in crossed, you have a right to know that, hey, they just showed you on video that it can get torn down. And I feel like that is something that people should know. Okay, so this is the young man who responded. His video is called Cape Coast and the Demolished Land, a brief history of the land. Okay, the person whose comment is on the screen is actually down here, who commented on this young man's video. Here's the comment right here. Again, I'm going to read it for you again. And I'm going to show you his channel as well. He says, thanks for the insight and history of the land issue. Much appreciated. But let's be honest. There are still a lot of land issues that have caused people tremendous financial loss. Tremendous means a big financial loss. We ain't talking small potatoes here, right? He even goes on to say it's something that is commonly known here in Ghana. And all because of greed and corruption. So please, let's be honest here and truthful about that part as well. Because this issue is a serious concern for all of us here in Ghana and the diaspora. Thank you again. So he was polite in his response. And so a lot of people are just saying, oh, thank you for telling us this. Thank you, thank you, thank you. They're saying thank you as if they're hearing the truthful side of things. But they're not hearing both sides. So here's this young man's channel. Okay. He's clearly in Ghana as well. Music in Ghana, cover story, music in Ghana. This is his channel. So look at him. Music in Ghana. Music in Ghana. So he, as a person that's in Ghana, is saying, come on, let's be honest here. Let's be truthful about things. Let's be truthful. Let's be honest. There's some corruption. Why would he say that if it wasn't happening? Why would he say that if it wasn't happening? Okay, so now I'm going to let you see the other video. Okay, this is an interview on Go Black to Africa concerning this. And this is an interview with an Afro-American who is affiliated with the property in Ghana that they destroyed and took their land. Okay, so when you hear this brother's response, when you hear this conversation, this interview with Go Black to Africa and Asar Amidiel Ben Yehuda, when you hear their response, they sound like they have their stuff together too. So why is it that people in the comment section over here on this video right here that I just showed you, why is it that they are automatically assuming, because this young man is giving a brief history on the land, why is it that there is assumption that they are in the right, when it has been talked about the fact that you have to be careful in Ghana when buying land because there are a lot of dirty dealings? Okay, so my thing is this: are we not allowed to talk about the possibilities of what could happen? Are we not allowed to talk about the possibilities of what can happen? You never know. That was one of those topics I was going to be covering today. I saw that as well, and I thought it very interesting that they've known about this for months, but they are just now telling people about it. So again, there's a whole lot that needs to be discussed on this planet, but this issue right here is a totally different and separate issue. Totally different. Now, someone says, Michael says, I wish people can live where they think they can and have their peace. So to stop all these talks, and please, whatever you want to do in Ghana, consult as well. So my thing is this: the talks are to give people another perspective to look at and understand because of testimonies of people who know things about these areas. I feel like trying to get people to not talk about these things because you feel it tarnishes images. So I feel like you're saying that we shouldn't talk about it because it's Africa or because it's Ghana, but nobody wants to talk about those who have lost their lives in land disputes. Who are we protecting when we don't talk about those things? I agree with what King Tubby is saying. He says, you are correct. There are 54 countries in Africa. And if you choose not to go to Africa, there are 53 other countries. Wherever you go, even if you're moving across town here in the U.S. or across country here in the U.S., you need to do your research. Do your research. Now, Powerful Majesty says they are striving to understand why Africans leave Ghana in droves to come to the U.S. for education, career, wealth, and property if it's so easy to invest in property in Africa. I mean, that's something else to be considered as well. Something else to be considered. And to the person, wake up my people, no one is judging all of Africa. Aren't we sitting here talking about Ghana? And not just that, we can talk about corruption in Africa because it has been talked about even by the former AU person when she actually said that we should actually down or not look so closely at the corrupt leaders in Africa, but look more closely at those who are stealing from Africa. And I disagree with her statement on that. I mean, she was pretty much saying that because these people are taking more of the resources and just paying African leaders off, that we shouldn't be so down on the African leaders and be more down on those who are making the deals with African leaders. And I said to myself, come on now. That don't even sound right. I think people need to get these African leaders and call them out instead of having someone from Africa, who was the former leader of the AU, instead of telling us to not pay so much attention to the corruption of the leaders, instead of doing that, why not call on the leaders to stop being corrupt? Mm, mm, mm. King Tubby is responding to Wake Up My People. Says, one, Ghana seems to have the biggest billboard. They say year of return, yet they have no system of accommodation and integration for those of the diaspora. I'm not sure about all of that. That's just a comment that someone put in the chat there. But I do feel that there should be more protections in place. And again, we do have a right to ask about, talk about, or discuss issues like this. And in the video, it seemed as though there was a downplaying of this. There was one portion where the young man said something that just kind of grabbed me the wrong way. I'm like, no, this is a big issue. When you're talking about property being torn down, this is a big deal. This is a huge deal. Especially some are talking about the billions that were made off of the diaspora for the year of return. Year of return, and yet here we are. King Tubby says also, yes, the leaders of these countries are to be held accountable and stop putting it off on Europeans. See, the thing is, we already talk about what they are doing. We already talk about what the Europeans are doing to our people on the continent of Africa. We already talk about that. But to suggest that it's divisive for us to talk about what African leaders are doing to their own people, to our people, that's ridiculous. It trips me out how they say some of these African leaders are paid off, where they and their families, they've been told or instructed by these European leaders, oh, don't forget about all of that. Just make sure, we're going to make sure you and your family are squared away. So they live in these big, beautiful, I can't even call them houses, mansions. And they are surrounded by material wealth, but the people in their regions are in abject poverty. But yet you're saying that we shouldn't be talking about this. I don't have to visit Russia to know that there are some issues there. I don't have to visit the Middle East to know that there are some issues there. I don't have to visit Africa to know that there are some issues there. You have people who literally think that you have to visit all of these places before you can determine that there are issues. Some of you don't even visit America, but yet you have all kinds of things to say about America. And guess what? Rightfully so. Because you can see it with your own eyes. You can hear the commentary of those who live here. I don't have a problem with you all discussing the things that happen here in America, because it is what it is. It is what it is. And so for those who like to take offense to the fact that we talk about things that happen there in Africa, we have a right, because many of us do want to live on the continent. And so we have to do research and do our due diligence. And to suggest that we have no right to do that, I don't know about that. I know that there's a lot of animosity back and forth, but there's also a lot of love back and forth. Y'all know me. Y'all know me on this channel. I love my people. I don't care where they live, whether they're here in the U.S. or on the continent or in South America or North America. It doesn't matter. I love my people. Right? But that doesn't mean that I can't talk about the ills among our people because we're black. And to the person, I see that they're not active in the chat anymore, to say that this is stupid for us to be talking about our stuff because the Europeans don't air their stuff. We see European problems and issues all over the internet too, because they don't see it the way we see it. They are talking about things because there needs to be a resolution to it. That's all we're doing as well. If something is happening somewhere, people have a right to want to know and understand why it is happening. Why was the property torn down? Did someone switch some information on the property? Was there some corruption? Was there a breach of contract, or did somebody do the old switcheroo on some documentation? That has been something that have been said by people of Ghana and those in the diaspora. That corruption is heavy. Right there on the screen, the brother in Ghana says it himself too. Instead of getting triggered by the fact that we're talking about this, get triggered by the fact that the corruption exists in the first place. There will be no need for us to even talk about it or discuss it if it wasn't already happening. Oh my goodness. Now, I mean, no, I have no hard feelings toward anyone. I understand the young man feeling the need to respond, but also understand our need of wanting to know what's going on. Why was the property torn down? I didn't hear the young man reference anything about the elder who responded, but he referenced why was the woman even filming it. Didn't she have a right to film it? Didn't she have a right to question why somebody's property was being torn down? Huh? What makes people think that she didn't have a right to wonder and to question why perfectly good structures were being torn down, especially since the elder, let me show you all this again, one of the elders who is affiliated with the land, let me bring this up on the screen again. He did an interview with Gold Black to Africa when he said that they were only 24 or 25 years into their 50-year lease. So they were only halfway through it. So why is property being destroyed and land taken? Now, the other young man, he talked about some land development thing. Listen to the language. Land development. Now, if someone has an agreement on some land and they talking about it's just sitting there and it hasn't been this, that, and the third, that doesn't nullify anything. There are a lot of people who own land here in America, and it's just land that they own. Now, of course, this is a lease situation, but they're only halfway into it. But if you have an agreement, why is it that these people want to look at what you have or have not done on there? They've done something, obviously, with the fact that their buildings were being destroyed. But this elder, for those of you who have not seen this interview, take a listen at what they have to say. They actually have property all over the world, not just in Israel, not just in Ghana, but in other regions as well. And so as I listen to him and I listen to the other young man, there are two sides that you can hear. Okay? There are two sides that you can listen to. All we are trying to do is to determine what happened here. That's all we are trying to do. And we are within our rights to do just that. We are within our rights to do just that. That's right, Shine Bright. The corruption amongst us is everywhere. It is. It is. And this is why, because corruption does exist, this is why people have a right to ask questions. Now, to the person who said it must be frustrating to go back to Africa, as his channel is trying to promote unity and positive points about Africa to African Americans or an American audience. He does do give positive videos, but he's also very truthful and honest as well. He doesn't just come and give, because I've seen other channels that talk about Africa, and I've seen them only present one side. They only present the good side. But this brother is fair and balanced. He tells you the good, the bad, and the ugly. He's not trying to make you look at Africa in a bad way, but neither is he trying to deceive you. He's saying, look, that's why his channel is called Go Black to Africa. Because he's saying, look, this is something that we should be doing, right? But he is also fair about things. And to the person, Citizen M, you have that all wrong. That they were not building a LGBT resort, you know. And you're saying that they're you don't blame them for protecting African. That part, those people, those Israelites were not doing that. It is being said that they are trying to give some land to people who are doing that. So that is the bit of information that needs to be clarified, because, again, I know the teachings of our people concerning that. And I know that Africa is not for that either. But when you're talking about individual landowners or people who can be bought and paid for, that's a whole other thing. I know that the president there isn't for that. And I know that Africa in general is not for that. But neither are the people that are out of Demona. They are not for that. So you got that part all wrong. That part I can't speak on. But the part that I'm speaking on in regards to these people's land being taken and property destroyed, the issue of the LGBTQ, that's a side note to all of this. That's why I haven't talked heavily about that part. The main portion that we are focusing on is why was these properties torn down? Why were they torn down? And was there some corruption involved? Did someone change some paperwork, or was there some type of misunderstanding? The whole point of the matter is people have a right to question what is happening. J. Lisa Israel says the Chinese have a strong presence in Africa, and you don't hear about their homes being torn down. I'm not saying it's never happened, but I've never heard of it. That's right. I've never heard of it. Again, much love to my people worldwide. But listen, let me tell you what the Bible says about these kinds of things. It says, if my people, which are called by my name, would humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from heaven and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, forgive their sin, and heal their land. It also says, cry aloud and spare not, and lift up your voice like a trumpet in Zion. Zion is what? The people. Zion is not just a place, but it's the people. Lift up your voice like a trumpet in Zion, and show my people their transgressions. It is perfectly fine to talk about what happens in our communities worldwide. Let me say that again. It is perfectly fine to talk about the issues that our people have worldwide. It's perfectly fine to do that. I didn't really intend to be on this long. I just wanted to, give an example of why so many people are talking about this, because we just want to know. And this ain't got nothing to do with inquiring minds want to know. This got something to do with people who are actually going there. Okay, and things are happening to them. I would say to check out both videos. Check out both. I'm going to put them up on the screen for you again. See what they have to say. But remember that the young man Echo is not the authority of what's going on here. He's talking about it. He's going to be doing some interviews as well. We will get more details, I'm sure. And these people right here, the man on the right, his name is there. He is affiliated with the property that was destroyed. They have a large group again out of Dimona, Israel. They have a large group, a large organization that is a worldwide organization. They are the ones who have been affected by this. They are the ones. Right? And so there are the two sides of the story. Of course, again, this young man here, he's just reporting on it just like we are. So I'm sure you may hear, or we may hear from some of those who are involved with demolishing the land. Right? But here is one of the sides who is actually affiliated with it. So for me right now, his words are more important than somebody else who's reporting on it. Right? So I'm very curious to know what kind of explanation can be given by those who are responsible for demolishing that property. I want to know their side, but at the same time, with this in mind, of what our brother from Go Black to Africa have said, and what so many others have said, including people who live in Ghana. I want to keep in mind that they said that there is a lot of corruption concerning land in Ghana. So, in other words, you don't automatically believe people just because they're from Ghana. And I'm going to read this comment on the screen once again before I leave. All praise to Yah. He pointed out that there are two videos concerning this. I'm going to put the other one up on the screen for Go Black to Africa. The one that I just showed you is the response to it. Okay. But there is another video where he initially talked about this. So I'm going to put that one up on the screen as well, so you all can take a look at those videos. We have a right to ask questions about this. We have that right. Okay. We have a right to know what's going on, because this is no small potatoes. Having a property demolished and taken from you is no small potatoes. So people have a right to ask questions. Indeed, they do. They have a right to ask questions. And so here is the other video. I'm going to show this to you as well. From Go Black to Africa. This one was done a couple of days ago, and the update video was done as well. So I've showed you this video here. There's the title. That was done a couple of days ago, in which the brother addressed this. Okay. And the other one I already showed you. So again, folk have a right to ask questions. And to suggest that we don't have a right to ask questions, that to me is more suspect than anything. Okay. Again, I love you guys. Thank you for joining me today. Chop it up in the comment section. Keep in mind, you have a right to discuss this. Can't nobody shut us up from discussing this or asking questions about this. If everything comes out in the wash and it just so happens that they had a right to tear this down, so be it. We also have a right to question why it was torn down and to understand what has taken place. We have that right too, right? But again, for me, it boils down to this comment on the screen from this brother right here. He says, thanks for the insight and the history, talking about the young man who put the video out on this land issue. He says, much appreciated. But let's be honest, there are still a lot of land issues that have caused people tremendous financial loss. is something that is commonly known here in Ghana, and all because of greed and corruption. So please, let's be honest and truthful about that part as well, because this issue is a serious concern for all of us here in Ghana and the diaspora. Thank you again. And with that, family, I am out.